In this video, I'll be trying to repair a VHT V drive that's not putting any output. I'm going to show you how I signal trace using a Dean Markley small amplifier and a guitar cable that has been modded with an alligator clip to ground and prod that goes to our signal. If you're new to this channel, my name is Robert Saldana. I've been fixing guitar pedals and amplifiers for almost over 10 years now. Well, I'm going to be showing you some tips and tricks that I use, that way you guys can fix your stuff at home. I purchased this V drive on eBay quite some time ago and I've never really gotten around to fixing it. So I thought I'd knock it out of the park today and show you guys how I do things. Now it looks like this volume knob was replaced, and it doesn't look like it was replaced with the correct one. It looks like it's a different type of knob, you know, but it looks like it's soldered on there. Maybe it's not soldered on correctly. Hopefully I won't need to order any parts. Let me show you how I signal trace. Now for my amplifier, I have a small Dean Markley GT1000T. I've had this for quite some time now. This is actually the second one I owned because I can easily work on it if, you know, I blow out a resistor or I blow out a capacitor or anything because I put too much power into it. I can easily fix it with no problems, and it doesn't take much know-how to fix this type of amplifier if you know how to fix pedals. I like this one, fairly cheap. I think this one was actually given to me, but I think the first one I bought, I think I bought it for like $10 off of maybe a pawn shop or something like that. But any amplifier will do. You can even use your own, but I would frown against that just in case, you know, you put too much signal into it and maybe blow out something inside. You really don't want to do that. I mean, this I could throw it away. It's $10. I don't really care. The next thing is, you know, I just got an old guitar cable, something that I was probably going to throw away, and I just kind of used that and I cut it up. You could see that I've went through this thing for quite some time, but I pretty much just have an alligator clip. I soldered the ground to make it stronger, and I put an alligator clip on the end, and then I'll clip this other side to the chassis of the pedal or amplifier or whatever I'm working on. And then of course the other side, the part that's taped up, is the signal part of the wire, and I just have it connected to an old prod that belonged to a meter that I used to own. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. So I'll just clip this end to my pedal, and I'll show you right now how I do that, and then I'll trace the signal until hopefully I can find out exactly where the signal is being dropped or find out other problems in the process. I'm not going to use a battery when I'm troubleshooting because I want to make sure that everything's good, so I'll use a power source. And this is connected to one spot. Now something else I used in this whole process, I use my phone. I use a tone generator app that I found. I don't even know who it's by, but any tone generator app will do. And I used to run music actually through it, just whatever sound I could find, and then I would play the music. But I found out that sometimes the music doesn't really give enough time, or maybe there's a certain part of the song that drops. So I ended up just using a straight tone signal. Which is pretty much what professionals use, right? But they have all this fancy hardware. I'm working out of garage. I can't afford all that stuff. I'm just working on some pedals for friends. I would recommend downloading this app. I actually end up using an old 1/8 stereo, and I just plug it into my phone. I get to pick the signal that I want, and you know, I'll probably start about 500 hertz. So I could probably do 400. That way it's a nice, you know, low mids tone coming through. And then I connect the other side to a 1/8 stereo to a 1/4 stereo. Sometimes you can actually find just a cable that actually has the converter automatically inside of it. And then I'll make sure and I'll connect it to the input part of the pedal. Now I have signal coming through it. Now I just got to find out where the sound's going. Hopefully I can find out where the problem is. Now sometimes the big problem with all this is there's a lot of wires all over the place, so maybe getting some type of wire management cables or some Velcro to help you mitigate that. That'd be actually a good idea. I'm going to connect this to the chassis. You know, I can connect it to ground anywhere I really want if I wanted to, but I know for sure this is ground, so I'm just going to connect ground. And you may hear a hum. That's just the way it goes. It's not a problem. And I mean, if I connected this to ground, since it's completely grounded, it cancels everything out. And you should hear, since this is the input, if I connect it here, I'm going to lower the volume a bit. if I connect this here, this is your input. Right here. That's input. And you could hear that I could change the frequency. That's 1 kilohertz frequency. It's kind of annoying though. I like a 500. Not too. You can choose which tone you want. Right now, the pedal's on. So I'm going to press down here, turn it off. So with everything off, I want to know if I'm getting signal on the output. And since this looks like it's output, so I'm getting signal for output. This switch looks like it's doing its job. Now if I stomp on it and I touch it, I don't got signal anymore, which is what the label said when I purchased this pedal. It says no output on distortion, so obviously there's no output. Now I can work my way forwards or I can work my way backwards. I'm gonna work forwards a little bit just to show you kind of what I do. So with the pedal turned on, I really don't know anything about this circuit. I did try to find some information on this circuit, but I could not find a schematic. I haven't emailed the company. I thought, you know what, I would just tackle this myself, and hopefully it's something really simple and I can get this pedal up and running. So with the pedal turned on, I want to know where here is my signal coming into the switch. So I know the signal's coming in here. It's touching here. I can see the wire. Okay, so this, and it's probably connected here. There it is. And you could just poke around, really. I mean, worst case scenario, you're probably going to get a loud sound. If straight voltage goes into that, I mean, you are going to get a loud sound. But for the most part, this little amplifier will be able to take that small type of voltage. Okay, so from here, I don't know where it's going. I know that there's 3 solder points here, and it looks like it's connected to a texture pot. So I'm gonna just click on that and see what happens. Okay, so texture's getting it. And the way potentiometers work is you have your first input, your second input, and then you have your wiper. So signal is coming out of texture. Interesting. And I'm gonna play around here a little bit. I'm gonna look for tone. Tone's actually connected to your volume as well before it goes to the output in most pedals. So I'm gonna go to tone. Tone looks like it's these 3. Oh, I got a signal here, and it's fairly loud. I'm gonna lower the volume. Like I said, the way potentiometers work, you have your input 1 and input 2, and then you have your wiper, which is where the signal's coming out. Now tone works a little bit differently, but so the tone is actually getting a distorted sound. It's amplified. That means that it looks like this distortion's working. So I'm curious. Let me go to volume. If I go to volume, volume is getting a signal. Let me see what volume is at. Volume looks like it's, I'm gonna put volume at 50%. It's kind of hard to tell because there's no knob. So I'm gonna touch the wiper. The other side of volume is ground. So this is ground. That's the signal. Am I getting a signal here? Yes, I am. Interesting. I'm getting a signal for volume, but it's not coming out. And usually this will come all the way up to your output. So something's happening after it's leaving volume. Let me see if volume's working. I'm gonna turn up the volume all the way. I'm gonna max it out. That's maxed all the way. Let me see if I turn the volume off. Is it gonna? So volume is working. Interesting. So far I've got a lot of information I'm able to work with. I do know that the signal's coming all the way. It is distorting. I'm getting a signal all the way to the volume output. I can't really tell exactly. I'm gonna take out this quality control passed, because obviously it did not pass my quality control. I need to figure out what's happening next. Now, if I were volume, where would I go? I'm going to check my switch over here to see if I have anything else. Kind of just poking around. You know, it's possible that we just have a cold solder point. So my next step is I'm going to take out this board and I want to look at the other side of it, and I want to see where, I don't know exactly where it's going because I can't really tell where it's supposed to go on here, and I wish I had a schematic to help me out. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this, take off power. I'm going to take off these 3 pots and loosen it so I can look on the other side. Oh my goodness. I might end up just replacing this because it looks like it's a PC mount, and this one is just wired crazy. I don't know who worked on this before. It does not look professionally done at all. I mean, there's still signal coming out, but that solder point is probably not connected correctly. So I found the exact potentiometer that I needed. I'm gonna pop this guy in and connect a wire from the wiper end to where I think it's supposed to go. I think I'm gonna fix that problem. Let's go ahead and find out. Okay, so I'm going to remove that potentiometer. I have my trusty little solder sucker, whatever you want to call it. It easily sucks out any solder from here. You can see that this solder point's all messed up. The pad just totally came off. Okay, so I desoldered everything. I also have some desoldering wick just to remove anything extra, but I don't know, let me see if I can. One came off. I may just do this. Sometimes you gotta be careful because you might burn yourself. You gotta do it very quickly. Sometimes I'll just heat the wire as I'm pulling it out. Gotta be real careful though. Okay, and then the last one should pop out. Look at that garbage. Look at that garbage. This is the bad one, or this is the one that was in there. This is the correct one. Let's pop it in. Okay, so I got everything set up. I haven't attached the wire from our volume output to back over here yet because I want to make sure that everything's wired correctly. So I kind of I put everything hand tight back in place. It looks, you know, pretty good. LED gave me some trouble. That was kind of not fun, but I got everything where I wanted to. I got power in, lights on, that's good. I haven't messed anything up. Reconnected my signal tracer. The amplifier's on. I have 497 hertz running through this thing. I have signal coming in. Here's the volume. Good. Is the volume on the wiper? Good. I'm going to attach a wire from this to one of the connectors over here, which is supposed to go to our output. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And I'm just using a simple wire, just enough to hold the signal. It doesn't really need to be that long either, so I'm going to actually cut it up. Putting a little bit of solder on both ends. It's very important that you do this to wire, that way it doesn't fall apart as you're trying to solder it in. Just get a little bit of solder, and it'll adhere to your part very easily. Gotta be careful with this because it's plastic, and I'll admit I do not have steady hands. Okay, that way I don't have to add any extra solder to it if I don't need it. I soldered both ends. That way it's easy to solder to the part. Of course, make sure there's no power going into the pedal. I'm gonna kind of look at it, make sure that I have a good connection. It doesn't look like I do. So that's what my connection looks like on the wiper part of the potentiometer. And this one's gonna connect to that point. Now this one's gonna be a little difficult, I'm not gonna lie. And to be honest, it actually should be connecting to this. So I may just connect it here. I don't need to connect it to the board. I went ahead and risked it. I don't know if this is supposed to be correct, but it looks like it should. I mean, if those four are connected, it's a parallel connector. So instead of connected directly to the board, I'm just going to connect it over here. Let me connect the signal tracer to see if that worked. Okay, so the power to the pedal's on. Let me just come back to volume. That's our main volume. Then the wiper. Okay, so from the wiper, it's going to go through this wire here, and I'm hoping that when I touch this, I'm going to have an output. Wow, I totally brought this pedal back to life. Isn't that awesome? That sounds all great and dandy, right? Let's plug this thing in. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. I'll do a couple of tones real quick. This is my clean tone. I'm playing out of a Fender Mustang. Playing into a Fender Stage 100, solid state, sorry. I'm gonna put the volume a little bit lower. This is with the drive all the way, tone about halfway, volume at about 10, 11 o'clock. Depth is all the way. Now, I noticed that the depth actually is our lows. If I turn it all the way, it sounds real thin. And I think what they're doing is I saw a row of capacitors, and I think that every one of these notches changes to a different capacitor. So this is about halfway. But you know, if you like that low end, I'm just gonna max out this depth. It's a little bit too low, I think. You gotta find that medium ground, I think. Also depends on the chords you're playing. Now, texture, I don't really know what that is. Right now it's maxed all the way. I'm going to max it out the other way, kind of see what it's like. I think textures sounds like the amount of distortion that's going to be blended with your clean, because it sounds cleaner. Put it about noon. If I max it out, so texture sounds like it's adding more gain to your sound. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave the gain all the way. Drive, I've had it all the way the whole time. Let me turn drive all the way down with texture all the way up. Not too sure what to play. Pretty standard. Pretty standard. And then of course maxed all the way was where it was. So tone, you already know what tone is. I mean, if I max it out, it's going to be real thin. And of course, if I want pure lows, I'm gonna put it back on noon. And right now I've been on the same select. So I think this one actually changes your diodes. I saw a row of diodes in there. This one sounds different. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play about 3 notes just to hear what the different sounds are. This is the first setting. Next setting. Next setting. Oh, this one, it sounds really warm. You probably heard a volume boost as well, but the lows, oh, they sounded really good in this room. Every one of them sounds different. This one is very high gain. Very high gain. Sounds really good. I don't know if you could hear that, but there's a massive amount of clipping on that. It's also very loud. I'm gonna lower the volume here. I'm gonna do the next one. This is the last setting. So this one actually, it sounds thicker. I'm not too sure what diodes or LEDs it's using, but it sounds really loud. I'm gonna lower the volume. So with this one all the way, this one actually sounds like an overdrive. This one sounds like an overdrive more than anything. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting this thing together, put the bottom back on, reconnect the battery. It looks like the battery's not connected. I'm gonna redo that. I'm amazed that I got this thing to work. I'm gonna actually do some research and figure out exactly, you know, what all these settings are. I'll put the links in the description once I find that. But this is the V-Drive VHT. I brought it back to life. Super excited. So there you have it. We have the V-Drive VHT. I'll be posting links in the description below about everything I know about this pedal. I still need to put everything back together. I got knobs falling off this thing because I just have them loosely on. Make sure and subscribe. Stomp that like button. I'll see you guys in the next one.